guys, welcome back. Thank you for watching. Please do subscribe if you haven't done so already. Today I want to take a quick look at fuzz. Now, I've read a lot of things over the years, and a lot of people do say this, that traditional style fuzz pedals sound better running on 9-volt batteries than they do running on power supplies. So I thought we could put that to the test today. What I've done is I've dug out a load of fuzz pedals. These aren't vintage fuzz pedals, but they all have vintage components and NOS transistors in them, so they're as close as we can realistically get. And what I'm going to do is play through them when they're running on batteries, then play the same things through them when they're running on power supplies, and put the footage side by side so we can hear exactly what differences there are, if any. And also at the end of the video I'm going to compare two different types of battery. A lot of people say that zinc-carbon batteries are the right ones to use in fuzz pedals, germanium Fuzz Faces especially, but I'm also going to compare a zinc-carbon battery to an alkaline battery to see if that has an effect as well. So without further ado, let's go! go guys, as you can see with almost all of those pedals there is absolutely no difference whatsoever when running them on either a battery or a power supply. To me, the only two that did seem to have a slight change in tone, and I mean we're cork-sniffing here, they are minuscule differences, were the Analog.Man Astro Tone and the Magnetic Effects Tonebender. To me, when running on the power supply, the Astro Tone seemed to have a slight bit more low end, and the Tonebender seemed to be a little bit more compressed and glitchy. But as I said, these are tiny, tiny differences and basically negligible. But when we get into comparing transistors in fuzz pedals, it is the small changes that do make all the difference. So if this is something that concerns you, what can you do? Well, the first thing to say is define better. If you find that when you run your fuzz pedal on a power supply you get a more fizzy mid-range and more compression, you might prefer that. So definitely experiment with batteries and power supplies because you might find that one of the two tones suits your preferences more. The second thing to say is, very obviously, if you prefer the sound of your pedal running on a battery, use a battery. But if you're anything like me, I always forget to unplug the input jacks once I'm finished with it, so I pretty much get through a new battery every time I use the pedal. So if you want to use a power supply but you prefer the sound of a battery, what can you do? Well, you can get something like this. This is the virtual battery from the GigRig. Other companies I'm sure make different products, this is just the one that I've got. And what this does is it takes a 9-volt input and gives you a 9-volt output, but it completely mimics the behaviour of a battery. So it gives you all the tone of a battery but being able to use a power supply. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to compare the sound of the Astro Tone and the Tonebender running on a battery, running on the power supply, and then running through the virtual battery to see whether we can get the virtual battery making the pedal sound exactly like it did on a proper battery. So the virtual battery does do a really good job of mimicking the exact tone of a proper battery in fuzz pedals. So this is one way around running a power supply by getting the tone of a battery. The other things to say about power supplies is it very much depends on the quality of your power supply as to what tone you get. Today I've been using really good isolated stable 9-volt power, but if you use a cheap power supply you can get a lot of noise like this. And the other thing to say is that some fuzz pedals, especially those with germanium transistors in them, do sometimes have a reversed polarity. So if you try to power them with an isolated power supply, you'll be absolutely fine. If you ever try to daisy chain them with other pedals, you will probably blow up your power supply and likely your pedals as well. So watch out for that and try not to daisy chain your fuzz pedals. Now, as I said at the start of the video, I'm now going to do a very quick comparison between a zinc-carbon battery and an alkaline battery. It's said that germanium fuzz face pedals are the most sensitive to battery type, so what I'm going to do is compare the Analog.Man Sunface and the JAM pedals fuzz phrase using both the zinc-carbon and the alkaline batteries to see what differences, again, if any, we find. So much more of a difference there. The zinc batteries really do sound better, in my opinion. When running on the alkaline batteries, the fuzz phrase seemed to have a much more compressed woolly low end, and the sun phase had a lot more fizz in the mid-range. But again, that might be something you prefer, so definitely experiment with different battery types. So I hope this video has been useful and interesting for you. Hopefully we've put some myths to rest and learned a few things as well. Thank you ever so much for watching. Please do hit the subscribe icon, and I will see you next time.